Welcome to our exploration into the neuroscience of drug addiction. This is a journey into the intricate workings of our brains and how they interact with addictive substances. Much like diabetes or cardiovascular disease, addiction is now recognized as a chronic illness, an ailment that lingers over time and requires proper treatment. It's not just about poor choices or lack of willpower, but rather a complex interplay of factors that lead to the disease. Each addictive substance, be it alcohol, nicotine, or illicit drugs, has a potent impact on our brains, sparking feelings of intense pleasure or euphoria. This euphoria, my friends, is a powerful motivator, driving individuals to use the substance again and again. But here's the catch. The more a person uses, the more their brain adapts, leading to a vicious cycle of addiction. Now let's dive deeper into how drug addiction specifically alters our brain. First, let's understand the initial effects of addictive substances on the brain. You know that exhilarating rush, that feeling of bliss, that wave of euphoria that washes over you when you first use a substance. That's not mere chance or coincidence. It's the brain's response to the substance, a complex interplay of chemicals and receptors that creates this intense feeling of pleasure. Let's break it down. When you consume an addictive substance, it stimulates the release of neurotransmitters. These are chemicals that transmit signals between nerve cells in the brain. One of these neurotransmitters is dopamine, often referred to as the reward chemical. Dopamine washes over certain parts of the brain, lighting up the reward circuit and creating that feeling of euphoria. Now, the brain loves rewards. It's hardwired to seek them out, to repeat actions that lead to rewards. And when the reward is as powerful as the euphoria brought on by a substance, the brain's response is simple. More, please. This leads to repeated use of the substance. But there's a catch. Each time the substance is used, it takes a little bit more to achieve the same level of euphoria. This is because the brain adapts to the excess dopamine by producing less of it, or reducing the number of receptors that can receive signals. As a result, the substance user may start to feel less and less pleasure from the same amount of the substance, leading them to use more and more to chase that initial high. In essence, what started as a quest for pleasure can quickly turn into a relentless pursuit, a vicious cycle of use and abuse, all in an attempt to recapture the elusive euphoria. But remember, this isn't about weak willpower or moral failing. It's about the brain's powerful response to rewards and its relentless pursuit of them. These euphoric feelings are just the beginning of the addiction journey. As substance misuse continues, progressive changes in brain structure and function begin to occur. Imagine a bustling city with well-structured roads, traffic signals, and signage, all facilitating smooth traffic flow. Now, think of your brain as this city, with neural pathways as roads and neurotransmitters as vehicles. When drugs enter the scene, they're like a reckless driver, disrupting the traffic flow. With continued drug use, these reckless drivers start causing real damage. They don't just disrupt the traffic, they start changing the layout of the city itself. The roads, or neural pathways, become rerouted or blocked, and the traffic signals, or neurotransmitters, become faulty. This is the progressive change that occurs in the brain with ongoing substance misuse. These changes compromise the brain's control over substance use. Just like how a city struggles to manage traffic when the roads and signals are not functioning properly, your brain struggles to control its craving for the drug. The drug has essentially hijacked the brain's reward system, making it more difficult for the brain to resist the drug. As the brain's control weakens, the risk of relapse increases. Even after periods of abstinence, the altered brain structure and function can trigger cravings. It's like the city's traffic being thrown into chaos each time the reckless driver returns. This cycle of drug use, brain alteration, loss of control, and increased risk of relapse is how the vicious cycle of addiction gets established. It's a dangerous road, but understanding these changes is the first step towards recovery. This is how a vicious cycle of addiction is established. Brain imaging technologies have given us valuable insights into the biochemical, functional, and structural changes caused by substance use. Picture this. Our brains are like cities bustling with activity. Neurons are like the citizens, communicating with each other, keeping everything running smoothly. When addictive substances come into play, they're like a charismatic outsider who throws the city into a frenzy. The substances bind to our neurons, triggering a flood of dopamine, a feel-good chemical in our brain. This causes the euphoric feeling often associated with drug use. However, it's not all fun and games. Over time, the brain starts to adjust to these elevated dopamine levels. It's like the city getting used to the outsider's antics and starting to change its rules and structures to accommodate them. This is where the structural changes kick in. Parts of the brain involved in reward processing and decision-making, like the prefrontal cortex, start to change, leading to increased cravings and decreased ability to resist the substance. The functional changes are equally significant. The city's communication network gets rewired. Connections between neurons that were once strong may weaken, while others that were once weak may strengthen. This can affect everything from our ability to make decisions to our ability to feel pleasure without the substance, making it harder to quit the substance and increasing the risk of relapse. Lastly, the biochemical changes are the alterations in the brain's chemical makeup. The outsider's influence leads to the city using different materials for its buildings and roads. Similarly, the brain starts to produce less dopamine on its own, relying more on the substance to feel good. These changes are not just temporary, they can have long-term effects on the brain and overall health, increasing the risk of various mental and physical health issues. Despite these changes, addiction is not inevitable. Addiction is not inevitable, and recovery is possible. Let's take a moment to really grasp the meaning behind these words. Addiction, like any other chronic illness, is influenced by a variety of factors. Genetics play a part in our susceptibility, while the age we first use drugs can also have an impact. Psychological factors, such as our emotional state, and environmental influences, like our surroundings and the people we interact with, can also steer us towards or away from addiction. But here's the empowering part. Understanding these factors, understanding the neuroscience behind addiction, can be a catalyst for seeking help and embarking on the journey to recovery. By realizing that addiction is not a moral failing but a medical condition, we can approach it with compassion for ourselves and for others. We can break the chains of stigma and make recovery not just a distant hope, but a tangible, achievable reality. Remember, understanding is the first step to overcoming. We hope this exploration into the neuroscience of drug addiction has been insightful. We've journeyed through the euphoric feelings that motivate repeated substance use and the progressive changes these substances inflict on our brain structure and function. We've delved into the neurobiology of addiction and how it compromises control over substance use, raising the risk of relapse. Yet we also highlighted the power of recovery, reminding us that addiction is not inevitable. It's a complex interplay of genetics, age of use, psychological factors, and environmental influences. Understanding this intricate neuroscience of addiction is crucial, not just for those grappling with addiction, but also for those around them. It paves the way for prevention strategies and fuels our recovery efforts. Was this video helpful? Are you interested in sharing your story? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below.